All right, folks, what is going on in the Bears universe? Because I have no idea myself, Kevin Lapka, and I don't think Kellyn does either. A little bit of a short episode for you guys here, reacting to the news that we just found out that Roquan Smith was at practice today, Saturday, August 20th, was participating in full. He wasn't just there on the sidelines. He was practicing. A lot of videos on Twitter of him getting active, moving around like a regular participant would. Then goes up to the media, has a press conference, says he is going to play out his contract. He said many times he is planning on betting on himself, was the phrase that he used, which one usually would do in a scenario like this. Now, little does he know, Kellyn, I don't know if he's aware, the Bears do control the franchise tag next year, so it's not the most ideal situation for him. And he admitted that in the press conference. He said, "This is not ideal for me. This isn't what I wanted, but this is the way it is." He said he also thought that the contract negotiations were distasteful and that he wasn't deserving of what he thought he should get, and for all the effort that he's put in this organization. So literally just in the last hour, all of this has happened, and Kellyn and I were like, we got to hop on and talk about it. So Kellyn, you saw this, you were at the gym, it probably popped up on your phone. You're like, what the heck is going on? Your initial reaction to Roquan Smith, I guess for sure, being a Bear on his current contract for the remainder of 2022.
Yeah, it was just weird to me because you don't see this happen a lot. I mean, especially now that guys are just trying to become a little bit more financially aware because they know they play a sport that is so brutal and hard on their bodies, and they don't play it for long. You know, obviously what happened with Earl Thomas, I think, is the best example of that, right? Guy gets hurt trying to be the best, teammate and for the organization that he can be, and then leaves the field flipping off his organization, as he's getting carted off, right? Like that's just the worst part of it. But you just don't see this a lot. And you don't see a lot of love for NFL organizations from players. And I think that's what it is for Roquan. I think he loves his teammates. He loves the Bears. He loves the city. He just doesn't mesh with the front office right now. But we all grew up fans of this team, but eventually and he grew up in Georgia, so he probably didn't grow up a Bears fan, but obviously he's a linebacker, so he can appreciate what we have. It's just very, rare to see somebody play this contract out for the love of their team.
Absolutely.
For the love of the city. Because there's been players that, take Le'Veon Bell, who, Pittsburgh loved him. The coaching staff loved him. The offense was geared toward him. And he played a position where you're getting beaten and battered just as much as you are as a linebacker, So it's a funny situation. And this is only Roquan. He's still in his first contract, so he's just waiting on that big second one. But my first reaction was, this doesn't happen a lot. It rarely happens at all.
You're absolutely right. And here's actually the way that I see it, right? Because we talked about the fact that he is continuing to say that he's going to bet on himself. And I think the ultimate reality of the situation for him was this. He realized that the market for him isn't what he expected it to be. That he knew even if he was going to get traded, well, guess what? If he was going to get traded, though, that team would have had to pay him the contract extension. That's why he would be getting traded. So that team would have to give up draft capital for Roquan Smith, then pay him that $20 million that he wanted. And I think he might have realized that teams, not just the Bears, other teams don't want to give him that contract extension. And the reason why I believe that is because if you are continually saying that you're going to bet on yourself, that means that what he's trying to do is play out the 2022 season and increase his value. Prove to everyone, prove to Ryan Poles, prove to the rest of the league that you are worth the $20 million. And at the end of the year, maybe he is. And maybe it works out perfectly for the Bears. Maybe he does, get the 6 or 7 turnovers this year. That's really been the missing piece for him when we talk about him as being one of the top linebackers in football. It's, well, he doesn't have the same amount of turnovers as Shaquille Leonard, right? So maybe he gets that. Maybe he increases his value. And I think that's the ultimate reality of the situation. Was his value isn't what he thought it was. He realized that. He doesn't have an agent. He had to figure it out himself. He figured it out himself. And the outcome was, he has to accept the fact that he's going to play out this contract, play well enough, which, again, it's motivation for him now. Like, he is playing, this is like a prove it deal now, right? This is a prove it year for him. If you play well, you go out there and bust your ass. It's not about your effort in practice anymore. Like, we know how much you can come to the gym, you can come to the office or at House Hall at 4 a.m. every day, right? That's not going to change anything. It's what you do on the field. Give us a couple interceptions this year, 5 forced fumbles, you're getting $20 million at the end of the year. If you prove that you are a linebacker that can take the ball away, which is exactly what Matty Eberflus wants. Do you kind of see the same things I'm seeing, that he realized his value wasn't that, and now he's trying to prove that he is worth it?
Yeah, I think I think it happens with linebackers a lot, and especially that he's on a team that they're just not trying to build around him right now. The defense
Right.
isn't centered around him. Is he the main focus of it? Is he the best player on the defense? Yes, obviously he is, but that doesn't mean that he's the focus of the team going forward. I think Colin Cowherd brought this up, and not to quote Colin Cowherd because he's not always the best, sports knowledgeable person.
Gotta do what
But
you gotta do.
the Bears, he is right in the fact that this can be a turning point for the Bears. Everyone's talking about. I just talked to a guy last night at a party. He's like, the Bears aren't doing anything. This is the most neglectful front office.
Is
For
it the
just
same guy that was mad at you about Keenan Allen? I have
Yeah,
to
this is
ask.
the same guy. Yeah, yeah. He might watch this too.
Yeah.
But no, it's I just don't know. Ryan Poles is being pulled in a bunch of different directions right now. I would hate to be him. I wouldn't be mad if he, shipped Roquan off. I wouldn't be mad if they extended him. But the argument can be there for both. But for us, I think Bears fans are a little bit unrealistic. I don't think there's a first round pick that can be traded for Roquan. And
Wow.
for teams that are signing these guys to extended long contracts, these line off ball backers. Fred Warner is on the San Francisco 49ers, who are looking to win the Super Bowl right now. Shaquille Leonard is on the Indianapolis Colts. They think they can compete right now. There's just not the Bears are not there yet. They squeak into the playoffs, maybe. But I mean, signing Roquan Smith is not what gets you over the hump right now. That's just not what does it. It's not what elevates the franchise. Does it make your football team better that you have a really good middle linebacker? Absolutely. But does that guy add enough wins to your team, or at least add the value that can, make you competitive right now? I don't think he does. And $110 million, whatever he asked for, 100, 105, 110, it had to be somewhere in the hundreds, because
Had to
I
be.
think Shaquille Leonard gets 97 or 99 on his contract right now. And I guarantee Roquan was probably up past that. So, he's a great player, and we both know that. Everyone knows that. And if this was take this as 2019, we're going into 2019 season,
Sure.
and this was Roquan, give him the contract. Absolutely, we got to win now. We still have the Khalil Max and prime Kyle Fuller. We still have those guys. Absolutely, do it. But that's just not where we're at right now.
And let it be known, we are glad that Roquan Smith is on the team right now.
Absolutely. I'm very happy he's going to play this year.
We're all very happy, not only because he's the best player on your team, but it's also going to make it more fun to watch, because having Roquan results in more wins. We've looked so far beyond, when we're talking about this situation, we've looked so far beyond this year. We're like, how does this impact 2023, right? With the picks that you can get 2023, how does this impact your cap space in 2024? All of these things, right? And we forget that we've come on this show and made the claim that the Bears could be a playoff team. And that only happens if Roquan Smith is on your team. So there's that. And, we'll hop out of here in a second. But I just had to say this, unfortunately for Roquan, this doesn't play into his favor. It doesn't at all. He's probably going to get franchise tag next year unless he plays really, really well and the front office thinks he's deserving of the extension. Yeah. But this is the best possible situation for the Chicago Bears. If you are in Ryan Post right now, you're sitting on a throne and you can put a crown on his head. Go to Burger King, get a burger meal, put the crown on Ryan Post's head right now, because he won this dispute. If you were to pick a winner and a loser, he won it, right? He won it. He stood pat. He wasn't going to give him too much money, but he also wasn't going to trade him for too little. I think that's what happened. Best possible situation for the Bears. They get their best player back. They don't lose money. He's on the current contract. This played out perfectly for Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears. Do you agree?
Yeah.
All right.
And he might be a trade asset at the trade deadline this year. You never know. Let's say the Bears are poor, at the trade deadline, and Roquan has still maintained his level of play. Absolutely. Get him gone.
If he plays better than what he has in the past few, if he increases, I think that happens if he increases his value, right? Because right now we know the value isn't where he thinks it is. If he increases it, and teams are like, oh shit, you have a team who's 5-2, right? And they're not the Rams or the Buccaneers or the Bills or the Chiefs. They're a team that's kind of lurking, but they need one more piece. That could totally be a situation. So. Yep. Wild day here out of the blue. I was just here working and I'm checking Twitter. I'm watching the Cubs game and I'm like, Roquan's back. Like, like he just showed up, right? Like he literally just showed up, and that was the result of everything. And I will say credit to him for speaking to the media. I thought he was very, very mature and professional when he spoke to the media. People have been saying that his actions up to this point had been immature, and I don't entirely disagree with that, but I appreciate and respect the way he handled everything that happened today and what is a hectic day for, and really not a great day for a guy like him. You know, you don't get your money. You run the risk of losing out on a lot of money if you get injured. So this wasn't the ideal situation for Roquan, but he handled it like a pro today at least. So appreciate you, Kellyn, for coming on. As usual, was at the gym and decided, you know what, got to hop on Bears Nation Podcast. That's our guy, Kellyn Gerenstein, myself, Kevin Lapka here holding it down. We'll be back on, I believe, Wednesday. Jake and I will be back here for a preview of the final preseason game. And then after that, Kellyn, we are in regular season mode. Absolutely insane stuff. Appreciate you guys all for coming in here in a short little episode, all the viewers. We'll see you next week. As always,